welcome to Flappity Flap Podcast with your hosts, Brandon and Sarah.
Hello.
And today, everybody, we are talking about, what are we talking about? Do you want to talk about death? Or do you want to talk about our new favorite reality show?
Well, death is a pretty fun topic. So let's start with death.
Okay. Well, my mom had to put her dog down this last week. Oh, and then I actually meant to tell you before we recorded. Ripley, my sister's roommate's dog, the little pug, they had to put him down too.
Oh.
He was really cute and old and snuffly, and he would kind of like do this like whimpery grunty thing, like when he wanted attention.
He was very old and blind.
Yeah. So when we visited her one time with Charlie, our dog, he was just like coming up to him and like bumping into him too, and just bumping into everything.
He would just like walk in a direction that he wanted to go and then crash into something and then like sniff it.
Like, what is this thing I've only bumped into 500 times before?
Yeah, he was walking underneath there. We were sitting on these metal stools and he was walking underneath them and pinging his head on them.
His head's not made of metal. Clong.
Yeah, but bone against...
I know. It's just a funny thought. Ping.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a pretty cute dog. But my mom had to put her Chihuahua Peebles down, and she's only had her a few years. She was a foster fail. And she had kind of been through some stuff. I think her first or second owner had mental health issues and killed herself. And I don't know how she did it. I don't remember. But, depending on how long it took people to find out and find her, she might have been alone and kind of traumatized. And just like she seemed like maybe she had suffered some abuse. She cowered every time anyone tried to pick her up. I mean, she definitely bonded with my mom and was much less afraid of her, but she still... like if you bend over to pick her up, she cowers and hunches, kind of like lays down. And, it was just like she kind of never really totally warmed to us. She'd sit in your lap if you placed her there. And like if you just played video games or just hung out, like she'd relax. But just a stressed, nervous dog. But she adored my mom and my mom adored her. And she had, I think, congenital heart disease or heart failure, like she was having
maybe
breathing
an
problems.
Enlarged heart or something.
Yeah,
because she had a runny nose and was constantly thirsty and panting
and breathing issues. And then was having, I think she already had like marking issues.
She had
the
so
amount of
many
time
health
she
problems.
peed on my mom's bed, but then she started having incontinence issues. So my mom's really upset, and it just sucks. And it just gets you thinking about life and death and your little furry friends. And, maybe you think you have a certain amount of time with them and you don't, because my mom had just a few years ago put her rat terrier Heidi down, who was having like a Cushingoids disease or some kind of syndrome.
Cushing's? Is that what
but it wasn't
it?
actual Cushing's. It was, but I think they call it that because it resembles it. And she was like 13 or 14. She'd had her for a long time, and that really hit her hard. So it would have been nice if she'd had Peebles a little bit longer, been able to enjoy her. So she's pretty down in the dumps. And I don't know why we thought it would be good to talk about that, except that, I don't know. Does it make you think of animals you've had to lose?
Not really. I'm just thinking about your mom and her situation with the dog and her other dog, who has now lost 2 friends because she still has Hazel, which is a little rat terrier. And she's so sweet.
She's a rat chihuahua mix. Yeah, she's very sweet, very social.
Yeah, she's super social.
For a dog with no eyes, especially.
If she hears you speaking, she will walk over. She's blind, so she will walk at you. She has no eyes. That's how we know she's absolutely blind. But yeah, if you are like speaking or something, she'll walk at you, and she
Run into
really,
things.
yeah, she really likes people a lot. I
She
think.
really likes you too. I think like mom says like Katie's like her favorite person, my sister, but she really liked you. Like when you would come in or when you'd like be cooking, she would definitely try to follow you and just like perch behind, just plant herself right behind you while you were at the oven and then you trip over her.
And she'd do this funny thing where if you put like your foot or your hand on her back, she would do like this. You guys call it like a humpy dance or something.
It's like the humpy spot.
It's like she would arch her back. So you put your hand on her back and she would like arch her back and like do this like dance kind of thing.
Yeah, and like kind of kick her legs.
Kind of like she's like rubbing her back on you. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
It might just feel really good, but
she grunts when she does it. She goes,
yeah. It's a little more cute than that.
It makes me laugh every time she does it.
Yeah. Yeah. She's a really sweet dog. So, yeah.
Yeah. So she's lost two sisters, and it's gotta, I mean, dogs feel that, right?
But I think also she has kind of played second fiddle to both of those dogs. And like my mom said, she's already kind of enjoying the spotlight.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I would think she would be, well, maybe she doesn't know that they're gone. Maybe it could be because I think dogs are really kind of can be sensitive to death. Like the dogs that were, what would you call it? They were sniffing out for people, at 9/11.
Oh, yeah. They got like depressed.
Not at 9/11, at Ground Zero.
Yeah.
9/11, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I guess they like got depressed from seeing so many dead bodies or something.
Or like because they would sniff them out and then they'd find them, mm-hmm. and instead of being like this, like yay, it was like
maybe like a PTSD type of situation. But
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I know like some dogs or just animals really bond, but I think in this instance, like my mom said when she had to let Heidi go, she said both the other dogs seemed happier.
Well, I think it also depends if they're like put down in front of them or not. I think if Heidi was put down in front of Hazel probably would react a lot differently than, oh, there's
just an absence.
Hazel's just gone. Like, good.
Heidi's just gone.
Or yeah. Heidi's just gone. She might just be thinking that she's like somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't know if they understand, but the thing is that Heidi was kind of like not alpha, but kind of like in charge. Like she was kind of bossy. She would get kind of snippy, mm-hmm. and like snap at them, or at least snap at Hazel. And then kind of like with Peebles and Hazel, like they would both ride in the front passenger seat of the car. And then because Hazel can't see and she'd get nervous and stressed, so she'd like step on Peebles or like put her butt in her face, and then Peebles would like snap at her, and then Hazel's confused because she doesn't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. So, she's probably just like enjoying things like having the whole crate to herself at work with mom, or having the whole front seat to herself, and just like stretching out like, I could get used to this. And
being the one.
They were never like, I'm sure they were companionable, but I don't think it was like they were BFFs. It was kind of, they both just had this mutual love for my mom and need for her, and
Mm-hmm. I don't know that I've ever even been around dogs that are very like close to other dogs.
I feel like maybe it's bigger dogs, like
even
sweet,
bigger dogs though.
Easier temperament maybe.
Even Clyde or Charlie are big dogs, are past big dog.
But they haven't lived with other big dogs, right?
But they had been around other dogs, and they would just be like, I will smell you, and then I don't give a damn about you anymore.
It might be different if they live together, but yeah, they might just be like, whoa.
Except Clyde and Tyler, our cat, they were close. Mm-hmm. So Tyler, the cat, would like walk over to Clyde and just lay little spoon. And they would just hang with each other.
Yeah.
Tyler was a lovey cat. Mm-hmm. I've never experienced a lovey cat like that to this day.
What about the one we saw on our walk that other day, a couple weeks ago. Like,
Yeah.
just that came up to us.
Yeah, that was probably a Tyler-like cat. So
I was
never
kind of like,
mind.
I could like you, but it's not. I mean, Tina and Joel's cats might be loving, but not when my dog's around.
Well, and they like rip up animals and stuff. Tyler was like, he was so lazy and so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Just this potato that would come up to you and want pets and want to lay on you.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
I don't think he killed anything his entire life. Whereas every other cat I've been around, it's like they'll leave, mouse guts on your porch and stuff.
I don't think I've had a cat like that. I think our cat, our kind of brain damaged cat Joey that lasted like 16 years or something. I think he accidentally like caught a bat one time. Like the bat was probably like dying, and he brought it home, but it was not due to any prowess of his own.
Look what I found struggling on the ground.
He might as well have been bringing home like a leaf. But
that poor bat.
yeah. But I forgot what I was going to say about dogs, pets. Oh, you didn't have a whole lot of interaction with Mackie, my dog the other dog I had with my ex.
Only kind of an annoying interaction.
Yeah, well, you're kind of, I don't know.
Well, let me explain
kind of picky
that. Okay, well, so you're labeling me that now, but he was on the bed, like taking up a portion. I was trying to get my feet under the blankets so I had, so I could lay down, and he was growling at me because I was trying to move my feet under the bed that is ours and not his.
Well, I think it was confusing for him because I was going through my split with my ex, and it was like he kind of used the dog a little bit, like kind of dangled him in front of me, and finally.
Yeah, but I don't think Mackie knew that.
No, I know, but I was watching him that weekend or that night, like I was watching him, and I think he was out of sorts because he was back at Aunt Nat's house and like sleeping in a bed with me and this guy he doesn't know instead of being with his daddy.
But I feel like he would have done that to anybody.
Maybe. I mean,
he seemed kind of like a jerk.
He was a sweet dog, but he was a bit, I think he'd been abused or neglected and had like, it's like a foster kid. Like they like.
But also he had been pampered and was allowed to be up on beds and stuff.
Okay. But my point is, like, he just had things where he could be really sweet and predictable, and then there were things that would kind of set him off that, like, even I didn't necessarily expect. Like, with Charlie for a while, feeling him out, like, he'd bite me if I touched him in a certain spot that I didn't realize was, like, a trigger spot. And Mackie was getting older as well, and kind of maybe a little grouchy. But we got a cat, and, like, quite a few years ago. And then we got Mackie like a year or two after that. And we were a little concerned that it wasn't going to work out because Mackie just kept chasing the cat. And eventually they just became buds, like way more than Mackie and Charlie ever became. Like, well, yeah, like they would sleep. I just remember one time Mackie was like laying on the couch or laying on the floor and the cat was just next to him. And we were like, oh, like when did that happen? And it was really sweet. And then the cat died. I think maybe it got pneumonia or something. Like, we took like a weekend trip. It was home, had plenty of food and water, came home, found it under the bed, just dead and hard. And like, and it would,
that's awful.
What was her name? Peppy?
She would, remember her name?
Well, it was more like Nick's cat. Like really, but yeah, I mean, she was sweet, but she was a little bit like not always, she was a little bit like aloof, and I just didn't super bond with her, and he kind of bonded with her more. But she would like have these like sneezing episodes, and so I wondered if she had kind of an underlying
or something.
No, I wonder if she had like an underlying respiratory or something. That then, I mean, we didn't get an autopsy or anything, but yeah, I was just like sad that Mackie lost his little friend. But anyway, that's kind of all I have to say. It was just kind of a sad, like, just kind of hearing by chance as I'm talking to Mom, hearing about Ripley, the little pug too. My sister's roommates, and it was like their remaining dog, and it was just like, oh, just sucks. and they were having a similar decision of like, he's clearly failing, but he's like not quite there. Or they're not sure. Like having to make that decision. Like I just hope and pray that Charlie just goes quickly. You know, like Tina and Joel's dog, Rose, who was a retriever. And, you know, she was only like 10 or 11, but she just in the night, you know, had a heart attack, they think. And just, it was quick. Like, I think you think it's nice, the idea of like saying goodbye, but I just would rather it just be quick and kind of like, I don't have to make that decision of like, oh, he's acting like he's healthy and happy now, but now he looks, you know, in this moment, he looks like he's really dragging and struggling and like maybe struggling to breathe. But then in this moment again, he looks healthy. And then I have to decide to just pump you full of something that takes your life. And I think that's partly my mom's thing is she's had to do that now with two dogs who would have these moments of like seeming like they're okay. And maybe that moment that you make that decision, it's time. Then, you know, they're happy and perky and you're like, what the fuck? Like, I'm just going to kill you basically.
Yeah. Going in their sleep definitely is preferable. We had to put Clyde down and that was pretty crappy. Mm-hmm. He had like a stroke or something where his head was like going left
kind
and
of
right,
cycling, yeah,
like back and forth, like the room was spinning for him, and it was like that for like a full day. And then my parents were like, "Yeah, I think it's time." He was very old too. My mom was so good to him. She gave him like all the best food and stuff. He lived for a very long time. I think he was like 16 as an older dog, as an older rescue dog. Mm-hmm. But so a vet came to the house and put him down. And it's like, yeah, you're making this decision for them. And it just none of it feels right.
You just hope that you've done it at the right time, not too soon, not too late.
Yeah.
You don't want them suffering, but like, you know, and then at some point, like I know my mom has put a lot of money and I don't think it matters the size, but you do kind of probably think like this little thing that weighs 5 pounds, putting thousands of dollars into potentially.
Yeah.
And how much more to prolong their life, a few more months or, you know. So yeah, it just sucks, you know. They're just, obviously we have this bond that we've evolved with them and like bred them to be that way, but it's like, we've not done ourselves a favor in a way because they're so hard to lose. And they're always going to, well, we're always going to outlive them until a certain point. But I would worry more about not outliving them and then like who's going to take care of my dog, you know? They're
like a little friend that, you know, can only betray you. Like the worst way they can betray you is by like ripping up your stuff a little bit or like... you know, eating your food.
Eating multiple sets of headphones.
That's like the worst thing they can do to you, whereas, you know, people. But yeah. So I think that's kind of why a lot of people have really close bonds to their animals. Because, like, you can't hurt me. The worst way you can hurt me is, you know, very minimal.
Even when you manipulate me, it's kind of enjoyable.
I don't know about that, but
well, you know,
sure.
Just like looking at you with puppy eyes to get food and then saying, see ya. Like, basically, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, that's kind of messed up because they're like pretending like they care about you.
But they do.
But I don't know if they
really care about the food, too.
I don't know if they're actually pretending that they care about you because they're looking at the food the whole time. So they're kind of transparent in that way, too. But,
anyway, uplifting stuff.
So, well, I mean, you know.
Yeah?
Yeah, that
was a weird...
That's it.
Did you want to move on to something a little more cheerful, like our new addiction?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Go for it. So we went and saw my aunt and uncle this weekend, and they're super chill to hang out with. And they have this nice little back room with a couple cozy couches, and they bring in all the snacks. So of course we're eating super healthy, like M&Ms, little candy bars.
I forgot about M&Ms.
Cocktails. Yeah. And then watching TV, and they're like, oh, we've been watching this show, like, let's put that on. It's called Alone, and it's a reality show about like 10 people. I think they send like 10 people out into, is it the Arctic or what? It looked like it was Arctic. Like technically the Arctic.
It's the Arctic. It's like very north of the middle of Canada?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of came in, they showed us like they're like halfway through or maybe a little less than halfway through. And they send like 10 people out with minimal provisions and they go out for 100 days and it's $1 million challenge. So whoever wins gets $1 million.
And it's right before winter. So
So they have like a month before
the water is
freeze
still
starts.
water. Yeah, something like that.
But they have to build a shelter, start hunting animals. They set snares, they fish, they use gill nets, and
they're kind of figuring it out. Like, oh, I need more fat than this, or Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I had canceled my Netflix a few months ago to try to save money and just minimize distractions from like doing the podcast and just doing other stuff. And
what happened?
today I signed back up for Netflix, and they like my aunt and uncle were like offering
goodbye
me
podcast.
No. But they were offering me to use their password. And I was like, I don't like to do that. Like if you're paying and just then if there's some kind of like too many people are watching, I don't want to do that. So I was like, fuck it. I'll just sign up again. And yeah, because I really just want to finish this show. So then we were like, okay, this girl was trying to hunt porcupine because you either have to get fish or porcupine. I don't know if there's other animals because they're the ones that have a lot of fat, like the rabbits.
Well, I'm sure there are other animals with more fat, but she had just stumbled across the tracks and was like, ooh, a porcupine. I know they have a lot of fat on them. So she started tracking it.
Right. But like they were, catching a lot of rabbits and other creatures. And one guy caught like a musk ox, but even that is like doesn't have enough fat for a human who's like out there just living, being very physical, and it's really cold. So they have to find animals that have a little more fat. So she finds this porcupine and she finally catches it, kills it, is, skinning it and, processing it, whatever you say. And it's like riddled with, I forget what the disease is, some kind of white spots like all over its organs.
There were white spots all over its liver.
Yeah.
Like big,
disgusting,
big M&M size white spots.
Why do you have to do the M&M like when we're eating M&Ms? And
because it's like what size they were.
Now I'm gonna think of that when I eat the M&Ms.
Well, good.
So on the way home, we were like, text us and tell us what happened. Did she eat the porcupine? Because we were like, she wasn't sure if the rest of the meat would be contaminated. So we're like, text us and tell us. And then we got home and I was like, she didn't text us. So I texted her and then, they said, yeah, she ate the rest of it. She didn't eat the organs. But point is, it's just like a really fun, it's minimally, it's minimally dramatic. Like it's not overly like manipulating you like all the other reality shows. Like that's why I never watch them. I can't stand them. Like,
yeah, it's just them setting up their cameras and they still do some shit. They still pull some shit with the editing. Like you'll have something that's about to happen. It's like the music starts building and then nothing happens. And it's like, man, fuck cut you guys.
They cut and they do a lot of cliffhangers.
I hate that kind of crap. It's so fake. I mean, sometimes it's kind of fun because it's like, what's going to happen? But when you do it every episode, whenever possible, come on.
But the nice thing is that it was clearly like made for television, or, but then you're watching it on Netflix, so you don't have to actually do the ads. So every time they have a cliffhanger, 2 seconds later, you're right back to it and you get to know what happened.
Yeah.
So just compared to a lot of other shows, it's not too bad. I'm sure that they have more crew. I'm just sure that they have more crews out there than they're saying. Because what they're saying is that...
For liability's sake.
Yeah, what they're saying is they have these people out there and all they have is their like few cameras or whatever that they set up. But, and then if they call and say, I'm tapping out, then they come get them on a boat and it doesn't take that long. But I'm just like, no, I think there's other cameras. Like you said, when that guy like set fire to his structure and there's like suddenly camera angles.
Either they have the cameras pre-set up, and I think that might be a thing. They have cameras set up that are live feeding to a nearby camp. So if anything goes wrong horribly, they can come help them. For example, like if a bear comes up.
Yeah.
Or if somebody slips or gets stuck or whatever, they have to have some kind of live feed, I would think, for safety. Because they don't want people to die for that reason and also to not get sued. So But yeah, one of their spoiler, one of the guys' huts burned down, and you get all these cool camera shots of it. And I was thinking, like, why would he stop trying to put the fire out and set up all of these cool camera angles?
Yeah.
Because $1 million is at stake,
And you need a fucking shelter because it's freezing.
and it's nighttime.
Yeah.
It's not like the morning when his house is burning down. It's night.
And you do have like bears and wolves sniffing around. I
Yeah.
mean, either a danger to yourself or they're going to take your food, because animals were stealing people's food. Like this guy had a wolverine scale up to his little cache and like take his fish.
Also, they are in the Arctic, and they're right on the water's edge. So I'm wondering if they're ever going to see a polar bear.
But, I feel like maybe they're not north enough. Aren't polar bears like in year-round ice and snow?
I don't know.
I feel like they are. Maybe they can't exist. I think they're really north.
Okay.
Really cold. But that would be terrifying. Well, and I think if you have 7 or 8 seasons, or I think they said there's 7 seasons of this show, if you didn't have someone nearby, I feel sure that at least one person would have died, you know? Mm-hmm. Fallen into the frozen lake, and then, so you just have no idea, and they're just, yeah. There must be a feed, like you said. That makes a lot more sense, actually, a live feed to a nearby camp.
Well, especially if you're like low on nutrients, your brain isn't working right, you're desperate, you're out trying to get food, you might slip and fall into the water. It's super icy. You know, that one woman, spoiler again, she slipped and mashed her face against the ice. She had a busted eyebrow and a busted lip. It's like, man.
She took it really well. She was like smiling the whole time. Like, oh, I hope my lip doesn't swell up further. But she was like, just wish I could be like that. Just no matter what happens, like you're just la la la.
She may have just not had the energy.
That's true. That's true.
Just been smart enough to go, I'm not going to freak out about this because I don't have the extra calories.
Yeah. It's a really fun show. I mean, maybe it was fun because when you're sitting there like with my aunt and uncle and you're like joking about what they're doing or going like, why aren't they doing this? Like, it's a fun kind of interactive experience. But I got really into it, and I wouldn't have thought that I would. And I think also because there's this part of me inside that like wants to be like that, like self-sufficient, being able to just survive in the wild, because I'm so not. And I'm really enjoying it and really thinking how enjoyable it is. Like, I don't enjoy the killing of the animals, but to catch a thing, to be clever enough and resourceful enough to catch a thing, skin it, cut it, do all that stuff, cook it, and then eat what you just caught. And like, it sustains you for another day.
Yeah.
And you're just catching kind of like just what you need. And there's like, yeah, you're in this tiny little structure, but there's not all this. Like, I definitely enjoy my creature comforts and all my conveniences, but it's wasteful. So like watching people kind of do that, like the guy who catches the musk ox, and he is literally like almost literally using every part. And I'm like, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, he's a bit cuckoo.
That guy is a bit just, okay.
What? Are you trying not to spoil it more or?
Yeah. And yeah.
Well, okay. So spoiler alert. So if you're going to watch the show, stop listening, go watch the damn show. It's on Netflix. It's called Alone. But spoiler alert, what does he do?
He catches this musk ox, and also he's bow hunting it. So it's kind of brutal.
Yeah, it is kind of brutal.
Bow hunting is kind of shitty unless you can kill a thing in one hit.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably rare. But so you have to hit the animal with an arrow, and then you have to track it and
as it bleeds to death.
Wait for it to die, or what he was doing was running up to it and stabbing it
to finish it off. Yeah.
So you'd run up to it, stab it, run away. Run up to it, stab it, run away.
Which is probably still more humane.
And he's burning a lot of calories. But then he had to do it quick because he had to get the meat back to his little cabiny thing. But yeah, he seemed pretty cool at first, and like he really seemed to just know what he was doing, and then he started like dipping his hands in the blood and getting kind of weird. like that.
Yeah. Is it weird to you because he's a white man doing that? Like,
Huh?
I just mean because it might be what like native people would do, like
I don't
eating
know.
parts of the raw heart or whatever. I think it was heart. He was eating.
The raw heart didn't really bother me, but like when he had his hands, like he got his hands all like bloody and was, I don't know, it felt
Did he
like
do it for a reason? Was
it
he
looked
like, this
like-
is really good for my skin, or was that
it
just?
looked like he was rubbing it into his hands, and I don't
Yeah.
know, he was getting a little weird. And he doesn't seem like he was washing that much. I mean, I know the water's freezing cold, but
Well, even like hippie chick, every time she would lift her hands to the camera, they're really dirty and like callous looking, really dirty.
yeah.
But then, yeah, if you're rubbing animal blood and then you're not washing your hands, like, we're not just talking dirt.
I'm kind of waiting for him to get an infection or something. Not rooting for that. I don't
Yeah,
want him to,
yeah.
but
Well, then he was using the brains to like rub on his gloves, his leather gloves, which I thought was kind of cool. Like,
yeah.
okay, like sealing it in or making it maybe more pliable or oily. But then he starts rubbing it on his face and he's like kind of getting into it. And,
Well, it's moisturizer.
but
I mean,
he was
I get it
really, I
as,
think
like,
we
a
were all kind of
practical
looking
thing.
at each other like, you know, he really seemed a bit gleeful about it. But maybe because he knew people watching would be like, ugh.
Or maybe he was just excited because he's like, man, in this icy tundra, my face is chapped.
I'm so chapped.
I need some of that brain balm.
Yeah, we should get a hold of some of that. I wonder if Burt's
That's okay.
Bees makes Burt's brain wax,
Probably not.
Burt's brain balm.
Uh-huh.
It's a cool show. I liked watching the girl do ice fishing because I think that's a thing I'd like to try. You know, I know she bugged you, but I thought it was so cool.
It seems appealing, but I think it's probably miserable.
I would like it in a more controlled environment in one of like the tent hut things where you have a thermos bowl of coffee or hot chocolate or soup or all of the above. And yeah, I'd probably get tired of it after 10 minutes, but it still seems
Yes.
fun.
I think you definitely would.
Come on. I'd do it for a few hours. You have your little radio like in Grumpy Old Men, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're not?
I don't know. I'm not really into fishing. Unless I have to.
Because of the animal death
That and it's just
thing, dying?
boring.
Oh.
You're just hanging. Especially in a situation like that, just looking at an ice hole, hanging.
I wonder how long, at least the first day, she sat there before catching something. Because of course, in the editing, they don't make you wait that long.
No,
it's all timed.
They show you the time though. They're
I
like
can't remember though.
in the bottom corner. They tell you what time it is.
I don't think she was there that long.
She was there for I think a couple hours, and then she's on ice that's just thick enough to freeze over and to walk on and to drill through. Well, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then she starts jumping in place in excitement that she caught a
She
fish.
caught her first fish. Yeah.
Jumping up and down with
Jumping
her
a lot.
with her feet in like a kind of together, which
Making a perfect little human piercing
yeah
mechanism.
yeah, like she's trying to pierce through the snow.
She's just going to go straight down.
Not to mention all the calories she's burning. As she's like worried about food, she's also hopping around like a freak, burning a bunch of calories. Like, what are you doing?
I'm sure
That is
she
not
was
survival.
a bit like on the edge and kind of maybe just hysterical a little bit.
Not good. I mean, I don't know probably half the shit she does about surviving in the wild, but like, what the hell are you doing?
Well, she was going through
Chill out.
some real
Sit down.
emotional stuff. She hit like a low.
Well,
What
then-
else did you see?
Then go, yes, I caught a fish.
I'm
and be done
explaining.
with it.
I'm explaining to the audience, to the listeners, because they don't know necessarily. Her name is Keelan, and the hippie girl is Callie. And so while we're watching it, there's like 4 people left, and there's Amos, and there's Roland, and Roland's kind of the crazy guy who like is very impressive.
brain
but
balm.
It is the brain lotion
It's cool
guy.
how he was using every part of the muskox.
Yeah. But Keelan, she was having like this really low point. She was missing her husband. It sounds like they really do a lot together. And she was like, I'm really missing human contact. And there's like just no one. I really like touch. I like hugs. I like kisses. And at one point, she's just sitting outside her little shelter and she's like caught a bunch of rabbits. So she's got like 2 rabbits on like a line, like hanging outside her door. And she just like touches the feet of one to her forehead. And she's like, this is really weird, I know. But it was so funny because she just wanted contact with something.
Mm-hmm.
And then later it was a bit morbid because she just has all these rabbit feet hung up like at her hearth or whatever you would call it. But I sympathized with her.
I don't think she had a hearth.
It just seemed like the place where the hearth would be because you'd have rabbit feet hanging over it for Christmas or something. I don't know. But I think that's why I felt for her when she caught her fish is because she kind of got a boost of like, I can do this.
Well, yeah.
And I feel like if she was going to leave, I mean, now she'll do her utmost to stick it out.
Yeah, no, it was cool to see, but it was reminiscent of like, have you ever seen those videos of like bicyclists where they're like almost to the finish line and they're ahead of everybody and they're like, yeah, and they throw their hands up and then they get passed.
Yeah.
Right. It was like that. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. You're just going to, you're going to fall through the ice or you're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Or you're going to expend too much energy. Like, what are you doing?
Well, and also like, just don't celebrate too early. Like you've got one fish.
Yeah.
So now you have to get it back, protect it, process it, make sure no fucking animal steals it. And you need to catch a bunch more.
Yeah.
And so stop celebrating. And then she comes out the next day to fish and she's kind of like really confident. And I'm like, just be like grounded and realistic and like put your head down and be humble. As soon as you get like too cocky or confident or like blasé, like you're just going to get corrected by the universe. That's just what happens to me.
I think that's what happens to everybody.
You have like a really good day, then you're going to have kind of maybe a meh day or just, you're not going to have like 3 really good days in a row. I know that sounds really cynical, but.
She could.
Out there in the wilderness.
But just being a freak when something goes right is not, is not really going to help you. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think I could last, but I like watching these people do their stuff. And, just something satisfying. I think also when you're sitting inside.
If you had the knowledge, you just have to.
And also, I just don't really want to.
You'd have to have interest and knowledge in.
Yeah.
That type of living off the grid.
It seems exhausting to me that you'd be bundled up in all these big, puffy things, and you have gloves, and you have like fur stuff on, and then you're having to maneuver through the snow or the terrain. And then bring this thing in the house and cut it up and process it. And then you're not taking regular showers.
Yeah.
It looks cool when you're like cozy on the couch with, an alcoholic or hot beverage in your hand and plenty of snacks. It's really fun.
It looks like something that would be cool to try for like maybe a week.
Yeah.
But not for like 100 days or however long they're doing it for.
Yeah.
100 days is too long.
It's a long time.
Especially for a lot of them have kids and...
Yeah. A few of them had like young kids, like 2 or 3 years old. And I'm like, oh, wow. But the prospect of $1 million. So that would be hard.
Yep.
But anyway, the show's really good. It's called Alone. You should check it out on Netflix. We were kind of going to do a shorter episode because we're a little bit behind schedule because of being away all weekend. So just kind of wanted to share that stuff with you guys because it was kind of at the top of our heads. So we'd love to hear if you've watched the show, what you think of it, or if you're like a survivalist, or with our other topic, if you've, dealt with losing pets. I feel like everyone has. And share with us. Share.
Yes.
What about you? Do you have any parting thoughts?
Yes.
Do you?
No.
How disappointing. What a letdown.
No, I was saying yes.
I know.
Before. I can't keep up with you. You must have had too much caffeine today or something.
You had caffeine. You
like
were the
buzzing.
one who wanted a fresh pot. You were like, can you make a fresh pot?
Yeah,
fresh pot.
See my point?
But that was me. That was a callback to when you were talking about Dave Grohl earlier, doing Bee Gees covers.
Yeah, Dave Grohl is doing Bee Gees covers, as you just said.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was referring to, and you wanting a fresh pot. You wanted a fresh pot of coffee.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably what made me think of it. But I really haven't had that much
Okay.
Having trouble keeping up with you.
You sure are. All
I
right.
am.
Well, let's put an end to that. Let's put an end to your suffering by stopping the episode. Okay, so please like, subscribe, leave a rate, review, etc. You know the drill.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.